At Sinclair Fine Foods, we celebrated our exciting new chapter as the crystal glasses clinked in the private dining room of Ellsworth, Boston's premier restaurant. I observed with a smile as Edward Kingston, the lead investor at Meridian Capital, raised his glass with authentic enthusiasm. Following several months of negotiations, I have successfully secured an $8 million investment to expand my family's specialty food business on a national scale. The champagne was abundant, the investors appeared pleased, and my parents exhibited a level of happiness I had not witnessed in years. My name is Madison Sinclair. 8 years ago, I made the decision to leave a promising career in finance to assist my parents in revitalizing their struggling gourmet shop. Many considered my decision to leave a six-figure salary for a family business on the brink of bankruptcy to be unwise. However, I recognized potential where others perceived only risk. Vivian, my former business school professor who facilitated my introduction to the investors, recalled the time when your parents' shop was merely a small storefront in Cambridge. We now observe the national distribution, the online subscription model, and the established manufacturing partnerships. The transformation has been impressive. Madison, I experienced a sense of pride as the investors acknowledged our efforts with appreciative nods. The journey has presented its challenges. I have implemented operational restructuring, rebranded the product line, established strategic partnerships, and created a comprehensive e-commerce platform. Sinclair Fine Foods has evolved from a cherished local establishment to an emerging national brand, with our specialty jams and artisanal condiments currently being distributed to 48 states. All of this would not have come to fruition without Madison's vision. My father remarked as he raised his glass. When Helen and I established this business 25 years ago, we could not have anticipated its current success and growth. My mother acknowledged with a nod and a smile, however. A fleeting expression of hesitation crossed her face, one that I recognized all too well. During the discussion of expansion plans that I had carefully prepared, I felt my mother's hand gently grasp mine beneath the table. Madison, she said softly, leaning in close enough that her fragrance surrounded me. This is indeed an exciting development, however. It is important to note that when William returns from his program next month, he will be better positioned to serve as the CEO of the family business. Your foundational work has been commendable, however. He possesses the appropriate educational background for this level of responsibility. My brother William, who has been traveling through Europe for the past year following the completion of his MBA, has made minimal contact regarding the family business that I have been diligently rebuilding with significant effort and dedication. I maintained a composed smile while returning my mother's hand squeeze, though a sense of unease began to settle within me. After 8 years of working 18-hour days, foregoing vacations, and delaying personal commitments, she continued to regard me as the interim custodian of William's inheritance. Is everything all right? Kingston inquired, observing our interaction. It is absolutely perfect, I responded, elevating my glass higher. However, beneath my smile, mechanisms were already in motion. The arrival of Monday morning was eagerly anticipated. 8 years ago, I was a prominent figure at Morgan Stanley when my father contacted me with news that altered the course of my life. The family business was experiencing significant challenges. Their expansion to a second location proved to be excessive, and the recession significantly impacted the demand for their luxury food products. They were 3 months away from permanently ceasing operations. I recall the responses of my colleagues when I submitted my resignation. Are you transitioning from a career in finance to the gourmet jam industry? My supervisor inquired with disbelief. Even William, who was completing his undergraduate degree at the time, expressed doubts regarding my decision. It is a deteriorating situation, Maddie, he stated. Allow it to be and direct them towards alternative activities. However, I was unable to relinquish it. Sinclair Fine Foods was more than merely a retail establishment. It represented the legacy of my parents. I grew up watching them develop recipes, source ingredients from nearby family farms, and build personal relationships with each customer. Upon departing from my finance career, I was not merely preserving a business. I was safeguarding a cherished family aspiration. The initial 2 years were exceptionally challenging. I managed the front counter during the day and analyzed spreadsheets in the evening. I successfully sold our second location, renegotiated supplier contracts, and modernized our accounting systems. I secured a second mortgage on my condominium to finance the development of our inaugural e-commerce platform, subsequently residing on a cot in the stockroom for 6 months due to challenges in managing both mortgage and rent payments. William successfully completed his degree and accepted an entry-level position at a consulting firm. He occasionally provided guidance from the sidelines, however. He was primarily focused on advancing his own career, which limited his involvement in the family business. My parents appeared unconcerned about his absence, consistently emphasizing how he was acquiring valuable experience that would ultimately benefit Sinclair Fine Foods. In the meantime, I was implementing changes to enhance the business. Our artisanal preserves garnered the interest of a food blogger, resulting in a viral post. I utilized that exposure to establish a subscription box service, which currently boasts 20,000 monthly subscribers. In the previous year, I established partnerships with 3 national gourmet grocery chains, resulting in a revenue increase of 340%. Throughout this period, my parents maintained a notably ambivalent stance regarding my contributions. They expressed gratitude. Undoubtedly, however, there was consistently an underlying sentiment of temporariness in their commendation. William would ultimately assume the role of the firstborn and only son, a familial expectation that appeared unaffected by my achievements. Madison's voice brought me back to the present moment. The investors were observing me with anticipation. I apologize. I meant to say that I am gathering my thoughts. Could you please reiterate that information? Kingston inquired about your vision for the company's leadership structure in the future. Your operational plan is commendable, however. I would like to ensure that we are aligned regarding management strategies. The question lingered in the atmosphere as my mother became visibly tense beside me. This was the moment I had both feared and looked forward to for many years. The leadership structure will remain unchanged, I stated thoughtfully, mindful of my mother's gaze upon me. I will continue in my role as CEO, while my parents will serve as brand ambassadors and advisors to maintain the authentic family narrative that resonates with our customers. Kingston acknowledged the information and recorded it in his notebook. What is the status of your brother? Helen indicated that he is completing an MBA program. Before I had the opportunity to respond, my mother interjected. William has recently finalized his executive MBA program at Wharton. He will be joining the leadership team next month, contributing valuable insights derived from his consulting experience. I maintained a neutral expression despite the familiar discomfort. William had dedicated precisely 3 weekends to the shop over the past 8 years, however. My mother conveyed the impression that he had been essential to our development throughout this period. Kingston's attention moved between my mother and me, evidently aware of the underlying tension. I understand. What will his role entail? I promptly responded. But we have not yet reached a final decision on that matter. Our primary focus is on successfully concluding this investment round. However, my mother had more to say. William has consistently demonstrated the most exceptional acumen for business within the family, she continued with pride. Madison has excelled in the creative aspects, while William possesses a comprehensive understanding of the financial side, which will be essential for this expansion. I almost experienced a choking incident while consuming my beverage. I previously worked as a financial analyst before joining the family business, where I restructured our entire operation and successfully secured an $8 million investment that William was unaware of. From my mother's perspective, he was considered the expert in business. I observed Kingston exchanging a glance with Diane Thomas, another significant investor. A change occurred in the atmosphere, a nuanced adjustment that I identified from my experience in finance. The agreement is currently under reassessment, Mrs. Sinclair stated with caution. Our investment is primarily founded on Madison's proven track record and strategic vision. It is essential to address any substantial leadership changes prior to finalizing the agreement. My mother appeared taken aback, as though it had not previously crossed her mind that the investors could be supporting me rather than the family name. My father cleared his throat with evident discomfort. Certainly, he responded. We are all in agreement on this matter. Madison has achieved something exceptional. And we are proud parents delighted to have both of our children engaged in this endeavor. The matter remains unresolved. The discussion transitioned to more neutral subjects, however. The impact had already been established. As dinner concluded, I observed Kingston engaged in a quiet discussion with his team, their expressions reflecting a sense of seriousness. As we exchanged our farewells, his handshake exhibited a greater firmness than customary. He suggested that we have a conversation first thing on Monday. Just the two of us. I acknowledged my understanding. The investors had clearly grasped my mother's intent and the implications regarding their $8 million. While my parents and I were traveling back in the town car, they engaged in animated conversation regarding William's return. Appearing unaware of the recent events that had transpired, I gazed out the window at the city lights passing by as a plan began to take shape in my mind. I anticipate a fascinating Monday. I experienced minimal sleep that night. At 6 a.m. on Saturday, I was at my desk in the vacant Sinclair Fine Foods headquarters, surrounded by spreadsheets, market analyses, and 8 years of documentation. The cleaning staff appeared taken aback by my presence on a weekend, however. They have become accustomed to my non-traditional schedule over the years. Ms. Sinclair, is everything all right? Jorge, our head of maintenance, has been with us since the beginning of my tenure. I am currently preparing for an important meeting, I responded, without diverting my attention from my laptop. Is there another one? Did you attend the elegant dinner last evening? Your dedication to your work is commendable. I found myself smiling unexpectedly. Thank you for your concern, Jorge. However, I must emphasize that this meeting is of significant importance, potentially the most critical one I have ever attended. Following his departure, I initiated a call that I had contemplated for several months but had previously postponed due to familial loyalty. Madison, at 6:30 on a Saturday. Vivian's voice emerged, sounding somewhat groggy. My former professor and mentor has consistently been an early riser, but this instance seemed to exceed even that norm. I would like to seek your advice and potentially your assistance. 45 minutes later, Vivian entered the room carrying 2 coffees and displaying a resolute demeanor. Upon elucidating the circumstances, she reclined and observed me with intense scrutiny. She noted that you have been anticipating this moment for years. What are your true desires, Madison? The question lingered as I contemplated my response. What was my objective? Acknowledgement from my parents? Could I receive recognition for the CEO position I've been fulfilling? Is there another viable option available? I would like to receive what I have rightfully earned, I stated at last. I wish to cease the pretense that my family appreciates my contributions. Vivian acknowledged with a nod. Let us proceed with making some calls. By noon, I had communicated with Kingston and scheduled an emergency meeting with the investment team for Sunday morning. I also contacted my dedicated employees, Daphne from marketing, Jason from operations, and Tamara from product development, requesting their presence for an urgent strategy session. These individuals were with me from the inception, contributing to the development of this company while William was pursuing personal growth prior to his MBA. My parents contacted me twice to discuss the innovative ideas that William had presented for the business. I directed the calls to voicemail. This weekend did not revolve around William or my parents. The focus was on ensuring my future. Regardless of my association with Sinclair Fine Foods, Sunday morning commenced with a sense of unease. I had very little sleep. As I was engaged in financial projections until 3 a.m., Kingston and his team arrived promptly at 9 a.m., their expressions reflecting a combination of concern and curiosity. Madison and Kingston commenced their discussion as they took their seats in the conference room. With 2 decades of experience in this industry, I have developed a strong reliance on my instincts. An incident occurred during the dinner that raises my concerns. I acknowledged their concerns as I distributed the folders across the table to each individual. The document on page 1 presents the current organizational chart of Sinclair Fine Foods. I anticipate that page 2 will resemble this if my parents' preferences are implemented following the completion of the investment. The second chart portrayed William as the CEO, while redefining my role as a creative director, a position devoid of clear authority. Kingston displayed a look of discontent. This does not align with the terms we agreed upon during our negotiations. I concur, it was not. However, it has been the implicit strategy within my family since my entry into the business. Regardless of my accomplishments, William is considered the designated heir to the company. Diane Thomas inquired about the contents of page 3 while flipping through her folder. I inhaled deeply. This is my counterproposal. The room fell silent as the investors examined the document. The document delineated a revised organizational structure that excluded both my parents and the Sinclair name entirely. This is unexpected, Kingston remarked at last. Are you suggesting that we reallocate our investment to a new entity under your leadership? Indeed. I confirmed this while maintaining steady eye contact with him. I would like to demonstrate the financial rationale for all parties involved. I indicated that the market validation is already in place while navigating through a presentation I had prepared overnight. The Sinclair name does not predominantly resonate with our customer base. They engage with the quality of our product and the narrative of our brand, both of which I developed. The investors paid close attention as I outlined the growth in our sales figures. I presented customer surveys indicating that the attributes most closely associated with our brand, innovation, sustainability, and community connection, were all initiatives that I had led, rather than legacy elements from my parents' original business. What is the status of the manufacturing relationships? Inquired Thomas. Would you not be commencing from the beginning? I declined with a shake of my head. We will address the renewal provisions in the contracts with our 3 primary manufacturing partners in the upcoming quarter. I have nurtured those relationships personally for several years. They are aware of the individuals who truly manage this business. During the course of the meeting, I presented a comprehensive business plan for a new company that would capitalize on the foundations I established at Sinclair Fine Foods while avoiding any familial complexities. Kingston noted that this is impressive work for a single weekend, but he suspects that you have been contemplating this for a significantly longer period. I acknowledged with a nod. This has served as my contingency plan for approximately 3 years. I have observed the differences in the way my parents interact with William compared to their interactions with me. I anticipated that this day could arrive. Following 2 hours of discussion, Kingston reclined in his chair. Our investment was in you, Madison, rather than solely in the company. The Sinclair brand possesses significant value, however. It is you who has been the visionary behind its transformation. He shared meaningful looks with his team. It is essential to perform thorough due diligence on this new approach. However, I am inclined to consider redirecting our investment as you have suggested, with certain modifications to ensure the protection of all parties involved. A sense of relief enveloped me. Thank you for your attention. I was ready to depart without any concessions. If required, such an action would not benefit anyone, Kingston stated, particularly not ourselves. However, I have one condition. It is essential to engage in a candid discussion with your parents prior to finalizing any decisions. Provide them with an opportunity to acknowledge what they stand to lose. I contemplated declining, seeking to avoid the unavoidable discomfort of that confrontation. Yet I recognized that he was correct. I will have a discussion with them this evening. Following the departure of the investors, I convened with my core team, the individuals who have been instrumental in building the company alongside me. I had not previously disclosed my contingency plan to them, as I was uncertain whether they would perceive it as a lack of loyalty to the family business. Daphne inquired whether you had an exit strategy after I detailed the situation. The manner in which your parents discuss William suggests that it was inevitable. Jason acknowledged with a nod. We have collaborated with you for several years, Madison, rather than with the Sinclair name. Are you indicating that you would accompany me? I inquired, taken aback by their prompt support. Tamara responded promptly. We have already addressed this matter. In fact, we anticipated that this day would arrive, particularly with William completing his MBA. The assurance that my team had foreseen this scenario and had already committed to supporting my leadership provided me with the final boost of confidence I required. They were more than mere employees. They were allies who acknowledged my worth even in the absence of recognition from my family. That evening, I drove to my parents' residence with an unusual sense of tranquility. For several years, I have been striving for acknowledgement. endeavoring to demonstrate my value through commitment and outcomes. However, I have now gained an understanding. No level of success would ever alter their perception of me. William will consistently be regarded as their preferred successor, irrespective of his limited contributions or my established track record. Upon arriving at their driveway, I received a phone call. William was calling from the airport. "Good afternoon, Maddie," he stated in a cheerful manner. "I have just arrived. My mother mentioned a significant investment opportunity. The timing of my return appears to be quite favorable." I found myself smiling. "The timing is indeed optimal. I concur. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the office." Tomorrow, Monday, marks a pivotal moment of change. The conversation with my parents on Sunday evening unfolded precisely as I had anticipated. My mother was taken aback by the thought of my potential decision to forsake the family legacy. My father, consistently acting as a mediator, proposed a compromise in which William and I could jointly lead the company. I reminded them that I have been managing this business independently for 8 years. What is the rationale for requiring a co-leader at this stage? Particularly as we are on the verge of expansion? William offers innovative insights, my mother asserted, and he has consistently demonstrated the most robust business acumen within the family. What evidence supports this claim? I inquired, making an effort to maintain a steady tone. He resigned from his consulting position after 2 years of service. I financed his MBA while reallocating my salary to support the financial stability of our company. My father appeared distressed. "Madison, I kindly ask for your understanding. This has consistently been the strategy. William is the eldest child. I am 37 years old." I interjected. "I have successfully increased the company's revenue by 3.000% since assuming leadership. I successfully obtained an $8 million investment through my strategic vision and effective execution. However, none of that is relevant as William was the first to be born. He is your son, not your daughter." The ensuing silence conveyed all the information I required. Tradition and personal preference served as their only justification. The investors are supporting me based on my merits, rather than my family name. I concluded. "You have until tomorrow morning to determine whether you wish to acknowledge this reality or risk losing everything I have established." I left them in a state of astonishment in their living room. A family photograph from my childhood is prominently displayed above the fireplace. William is positioned prominently at the forefront, while I am situated slightly to the side. I came to the realization that it had always been that way. I had simply preferred not to observe it. The Monday morning commenced with clarity and brightness. I scheduled a meeting with the investors at the office for 9 a.m. Anticipating that my parents would typically arrive by 8:30 a.m. and that William had communicated he would join for his first day at 8:45 a.m. I arrived at 7:30, allowing myself sufficient time to gather my thoughts and prepare for the upcoming events. To my surprise, Daphne, Jason, and Tamara were already present, accompanied by approximately a dozen other key employees. "What brings you all here at such an early hour?" I inquired. Daphne displayed a smile. "We would like to assure you that you are not alone in this situation. Regardless of the circumstances that arise today, we stand by your side." The gesture nearly compromised my composure, however. I managed a grateful nod before returning to my office to review my notes one final time. At precisely 8:30, my parents entered, their expressions reflecting a blend of tension and determination. My mother wore formal attire, seemingly ready for an important presentation. My father appeared fatigued, the disagreement from the previous night evidently affecting him. At 8:42, William entered, dressed in an expensive suit and displaying a relaxed confidence characteristic of an individual who has not had to struggle for acknowledgement. He extended handshakes to employees he was only slightly acquainted with, expressing his enthusiasm for assuming leadership of the family business. I observed from my glass-walled office as he engaged with the attendees, already assuming the responsibilities of a CEO despite not having yet earned the position. My mother expressed her pride, highlighting various aspects of the operation to him as though he were a visiting dignitary, rather than someone who should have been actively involved with us for the past 8 years. At exactly 9 a.m., the elevator doors opened, and Kingston entered accompanied by his investment team and two individuals I recognized as partners from the legal department of Meridian Capital. The atmosphere in the office changed noticeably, with employees becoming aware that a significant event was imminent. My mother approached quickly, extending her hand. "Mr. Kingston, we are pleased to have you with us. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce my son, William. He has just returned from," Kingston interjected in a polite yet assertive manner. "We are here to speak with Madison. Mrs. Sinclair, I believe it would be advantageous for everyone to convene in the conference room. The time for accountability has come." The atmosphere in the conference room was palpable with anticipation as attendees settled into their seats. The investment team occupied one side, with my parents and William at the head of the table. Years of unarticulated family dynamics were poised to intersect with the stark realities of business. Kingston opened his briefcase and organized several documents for review. "Before we commence, I would like to clarify an important matter. The investment by Meridian Capital received approval due to Madison's leadership and strategic vision for the company. Our due diligence concentrated on her performance history, her team composition, and her strategic growth plan." William adjusted his position in his seat with noticeable discomfort. My mother's smile became permanent. Following the conversation on Friday evening, Kingston stated that we have had to reevaluate our position. It has become evident that there may be a discrepancy in expectations concerning the future leadership of the company. My father cleared his throat. "We have consistently envisioned Sinclair Fine Foods as a true family enterprise, where our children actively contribute their unique strengths. With all due respect," Mr. Sinclair's Diane Thomas stated, "our investment was based on the continuity of leadership. Madison has exhibited remarkable business acumen, transforming the company from a state of near bankruptcy to a national competitor. Any substantial change to that leadership constitutes a significant modification to our agreement." William leaned forward, his voice exuding confidence despite his total absence from the company for the past 8 years. "I am confident that my executive MBA and consulting experience render me well qualified for this opportunity." Kingston inquired directly, "Is it necessary to find a successor for the individual who significantly contributed to the success of this company? Which entity experienced a 3.000% increase in its valuation? Who was responsible for securing this investment initially?" The room became quiet. My mother's complexion had turned pale, and her gaze shifted anxiously between William and Kingston. Kingston announced a proposition, sliding a folder toward my parents. "There are 2 options available. I recommend that you examine them thoroughly." My parents opened the folder with apprehensive hands. Enclosed were 2 legal documents. The initial agreement detailed the original investment arrangement, incorporating clear stipulations that I would retain the position of CEO for a minimum of 5 years, while William would be restricted to a non-executive role. The second document was distinctly different, a term sheet outlining a $10 million investment in a new company, which I would establish and lead, independent of the Sinclair name or family ownership. "Could you please clarify what this is?" my father inquired, his voice scarcely above a whisper. I responded in a composed manner. "Insurance. If there remains any uncertainty regarding the true value of this company, please let me know." William quickly took hold of the second document, his face reddening as he reviewed its contents. "Are you considering the establishment of a competing business? Is that your family?" I explained to him that I am protecting the value I have established. "The value in question was not created by your efforts." "William, where were you when I was resting on a cot in the stockroom to ensure payroll was met?" "During that period, I had to personally deliver orders because I couldn't afford the shipping fees. During my tenure at the Register, I undertook the comprehensive redesign of our entire product line." My mother appeared distressed. "Madison, it is difficult to believe that you would consider forsaking your family legacy." The door to the conference room opened before I could respond. Daphne entered, accompanied by Jason, Tamara, and a minimum of 15 additional employees, many of whom had been with the company for several years. "We apologize for the interruption," Daphne stated, her voice clear and confident. "However, we would like to convey an important message. If Madison decides to leave to establish a new company, we will accompany her." Everyone was involved. The room was filled with hushed conversations. My parents looked on in astonishment at the gathered employees. The vital core of the organization they believed they managed. The decision is yours, I stated softly. Kindly acknowledge my contributions and those of others involved in this process. Or I will have to leave and take with me the company's assets. For approximately 10 minutes, the sole sound in the conference room was the rustling of papers as my parents and William reviewed the documents in front of them. Kingston and his team remained poised as they awaited further developments. The employees who gathered to support me positioned themselves at the periphery of the room, serving as a visual representation of the company's core value. Ultimately, my father exhaled deeply and presented the initial document. We will proceed with the signing of this document, he stated, his tone reflecting a sense of resignation. Madison will continue in the role of Chief Executive Officer. Despite her lips being tightly pursed, my mother nodded in agreement. William appeared stunned, witnessing the disintegration of his meticulously planned future. Kingston indicated that it was a prudent decision and instructed his legal team to complete the necessary paperwork. 2 hours later, the task was completed. The investment will advance with clear safeguards for my position. William will assume the position of Vice President of Business Development, a role defined by specific responsibilities and a reporting structure that places him under my supervision. My parents will transition to the role of brand ambassadors, fully stepping back from daily operations. That occurred 6 months ago. Sinclair Fine Foods is currently experiencing significant success. The national expansion is progressing ahead of schedule, and the new product lines have surpassed sales projections by 40%. From an external perspective, we present a commendable example of family entrepreneurship success. The situation is more complex. I uphold a strictly professional relationship with my parents and William. Our interactions are professional in nature and primarily focused on business matters. I participate in the required family dinners during holidays, however. I no longer pursue their approval or acknowledgement. Certain wounds may remain unhealed. They become an integral part of your identity. The experience of betrayal imparted a significant lesson. My value is not contingent upon the acknowledgement of my family. My true family is the team that supported me that Monday morning, demonstrating their commitment to loyalty and fairness by being willing to forego security. While I may bear the Sinclair name on my business cards, the legacy I create is distinctly my own.